Good afternoon, my friends. Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday. We're in the third week of July. And my name is Pastor Lou Kilgore. I am serving here at the High Mountain Presbyterian Church as a gathered community in the Reformed tradition. We've been through several transformations in our history in terms of understanding the meaning of the gospel, the meaning of life, and how to live it. We are questioners, seekers, people who believe in, ultimately, who believe in the process of reforming and always reforming to better carry forward a message of love in the world. To hear it for ourselves and to be part of carrying it to others. So what does all that have to do with here now? It has to do with the fact that this is what I call a pastor's chat. This chair here is for everyone who joins the chat so that you know there's a place for you here in this conversation. I hope you'll listen for your place, your connection. Fundamental assumption of a pastor talking is always the assumption that as human beings we have more in common than we do that separates us. There are many differences between us, my friends, many. But at the heart of it all, of our experience, we are like creatures, urged from the same things, find real joy in similar kinds of things. And I guess mostly it's that we know that humans around the world, in every culture, in every language, in every expression, thrive on love. Love. And so I hope that today will be an expression of love for you as I try to talk out of my experience as a pastor and share some of my thoughts in my journey, believing that it's not really just about me, that it's about us. And I learned from the 12-step groups that I used to attend and visit to support that there was always a saying, if it's helpful, take it with you. If it's not, leave it behind. So the same words, I would say, apply to this conversation today. It's a hot day. The dog days of summer, I would say. I guess those are the days where the dogs look especially like they're suffering because they lay panting. And they tell us not to leave them outside. So how are you? How are you? How are you faring in this past the midpoint of the year, the notorious year of 2020? There are so many possibilities for seeing metaphorical meaning. 2020 is the, scientific ophthalmologist's way of describing perfect vision, right? You see 2020, I don't even know what that means, but I always think that 2020 is the year of seeing clearly. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're seeing clearly. Maybe we see clearly. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. 2020. There's another song lyric comes to mind. Doctor, my eyes have seen the tears in the slow parade of years. And the writer of the lyric is asking to see no more. 2020 vision is supposed to be what looking back in history gives you. Wow, I'm not sure about that at all. I've been looking back at the history of my life, and I've been looking back at Sorry, I can't get my throat cleared from lunch. I've been looking back at the history of our life. The our sometimes is my family, and sometimes it's my community, and sometimes it's my race, my position in life, our history. And I am in the year of 2020. All I'm seeing is that I have not seen the history at all. I haven't seen the history. I haven't seen. Hindsight is not 2020. It still carries the blinders of today. I mean, I suppose that saying comes up because it's easier, perhaps, to see what happened than it is to see what is going to happen. That is for sure. But it is still not 2020 vision to see what happened, to see the history, to know. You revisit the history, and I don't know, what are the numbers for bad vision? 2030? Does it go 2060 or does it go down 2010? I know you can hear the leaf blowers whirring in the background. They have the same appointment with you that I have for 2 o'clock. I would often schedule visits in my office for 2 o'clock. I got more of the book work and my reading and reflecting and planning and visitation and caring, responding to notes, administrative work. I'm trying to get that all wrapped up. And if someone says, "Gee, do you have a moment I can come in and talk to you?" I almost always set it up for 2 o'clock. Sure, let's plan to get together at 2 o'clock. Or sometimes it needed to be evening meetings. And I never learned that the lawn care company comes at 2 o'clock. Is hindsight 2020? Is 2020 the year 2020? What is, I am seeing things now in 2020 I've never seen before. And I could make a list. I think at the top of the list is I'm seeing what I've always known, but I've never seen it like this. The interconnectedness between us as creatures, as human beings. I've watched oftentimes with wonder, I'm sure you've seen it in the migratory period when birds of a feather flocking together fly off in these orchestrated, wings of birds, individual birds creating almost one moving magic carpet that flies through the air. The interconnectedness, the interrelatedness that it takes, that sense of belonging to each other, individual but belonging to a group, is phenomenal to me. And sometimes there are hundreds of thousands of birds involved in the blanket, in the carpet as it moves. 2020. I realize, I see, we human beings, we have always been like that. We don't cooperate that way, by and large. We're more like sheep. We like to go our own way than we are birds of a feather that flock together. But we're still built that way. We're still built that way. I am made up of the parts of my ancestors in my genome, in my genetic structure. I am made up of the parts of my ancestors, and the parts of my ancestors are parts of others, and the biblical sense of it is that we all have a common ancestor, that we are one. In the year 2020, we're being asked to see that like never before. There was a period of time in the awareness of the general population, me, where scientists were trying to explain that the Earth as a rock is like this as well. One part is connected to the other. And the environmentalists and the people who study the atmosphere and the air and the plants and the water, and they've been trying to help us to see that everything is related to everything else. It is all related. And you had phrases that, the world is just in my backyard. And there were seismologists were telling us that sometimes the balance is so amazingly tight that someone could drop a fork in England, a fork that you eat with, and that sound wave, that ripple, could cause an earthquake in some other part of the earth when the conditions were right. So interrelated, so interconnected is the world. I keep trying to get a 2020 vision of this virus. People say, oh, it'll pass. And I just wonder, how am I supposed to picture that? Like, is that like the angel of death that went through Egypt? It came when it got dark and it passed through, and all the eldest born children died except for those who had, through belief in some instruction, had put blood over the doorpost, and no one in that house then died? Is that what it is? Like, or is it like the science fiction movies, where the fog moves in, wherever the fog is, everybody breathes it and they die, or they turn into aliens, or they go crazy, and then the fog passes on to somewhere else. But I don't think that's the way it is. The virus lives in us. It lives in us. It wouldn't live without a host. Humans are the host. We are the fog. We are the cloud. And it reveals in 2020, COVID-19 reveals for 20 and 20 the interconnectedness between us as human beings. It's amazing that we haven't really discovered that a tribe in the Aborigines, or one clan from Scotland, or one group in Africa somehow is immune. Nope, not this one. Everybody seems vulnerable in some way or another. So 2020 shows us our interconnectedness to each other. I don't know what to make of it exactly. Growing up, I always thought that Jesus brought the Spirit from God that made community out of people. That was, we are family in the church because we're not really family, but we come together and then God makes of us a family. So that God then makes a oneness of us. But before that happens, or maybe I always misunderstood that anyway, maybe the lesson always was that God reveals our oneness, which we deny. People who say that race is a figment of our imagination, because in the gradations of skin color and of facial eyes and all the rest of it, we exist in a whole range of human beings. It's we're the ones who choose. Black doesn't mean black, and white. What is white in some areas is different than what is white in other areas. race is a complex construction of our way, our faulty way of seeing us as creatures on the earth and believing that we are different, and we are not. 2020 coronavirus. I wish that we could discover our oneness in strength and our oneness in power for healing and for forgiving and renewing the earth. I would like that. I would like that if we were discovering our vulnerability and connectedness in the process of renewing the earth, renewing relationships, long broken and hard, tribal hatreds and warriorism that exists deep in our fabric. COVID 2020 is giving us an opportunity, even as dark as the results are, especially as if you have a relative who is suffering or dying, or you see the accumulation of the dying and unclaimed. I hope that 2020 will be a year of vision, of seeing, of really seeing how much we belong to each other, when the ancients recounted the story of Cain and Abel, the first two humans of the second generation, and the one had murdered the other out of jealousy and believing that God was showing favoritism. It's never a good thing for a parent to show favoritism. And God, the account says that God came walking on the earth and was calling out to Cain and said to Cain, "Where is your brother?" And Cain's answer was, "Why are you asking me? Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? He's my brother, but am I connected to him in that way?" In preaching class, I remember seeing life reflections of older pastors and preachers who were looking back on their life, and one Episcopalian priest once said that to him, the years and years and years of his pastoral ministry had taught him that the question goes out in the human community, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer that human beings have given over and over and over again, Christian and non-Christian, has been, hell no, I'm not my brother's keeper. I am not. I'm not responsible for what happens to my brother or my sister. Am I my brother's keeper? "2020, this is the year of 2020. A new vision, new insight. Looking, I'll put the past over there. Looking to our past and asking, have we seen it clearly? Do we know how we got here, where we are? Is hindsight 2020? Is the present year 2020 for things that might help us to reshape the way we live our lives? drop a fork in your kitchen tonight and wonder what repercussions it might have in your sister's household. Somewhere far around the earth on the other side. 2020. We are connected to each other like the separate threads of yarn woven together into a garment. We are connected. May your sight today be broadened to see how you are connected with friends, and may you explore those connections and value them and think creatively about keeping your sister and your brother. And owning what we see in 2020. We belong to the world. Like that powerful Coca-Cola commercial song, we are the world. We are the children. We are the adults. Those 2020 visions only come around every now and then. I hope they move deep into our lives and help us to see a past that we thought we knew clearly, a present that we thought we understood, and that now God may open our eyes to see what has been in front of us all the time. The good news for me is that means that you and I belong to each other. So in that way, I'm sending you good thoughts, prayers of blessings. I know some families in my community are struggling. There's a child that's deeply hurting, and the family that love her, she's a very, very young child, and she's been given the final word to come home in her infancy, and they're all preparing for her to die. My heart goes out to them and to you. I know there are some people who are celebrating extreme moments of joy and happiness. And my heart is with you too. I'm drawing on that. Today, we are seeing 2020, that we belong to each other. May God add the thoughts of life and hope to that belongingness as we try to exercise our care for our sisters and our brothers and ourselves. That's my prayer today, my friends. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.